I've written. It is a true story about my childhood as an adopted person, born in Texas, raised in New York, in a house that I would discover is haunted. The following story is true, I swear, about a tough little girl who was awfully scared and how she grew up to stand here tonight. So beware, dear listeners, prepare for a fright. This story is not finished, at least not quite. And should you go on this journey with me, your safety I cannot guarantee. From here on out, don't believe what you're shown, for from this moment, we are not alone. When I was 5 years old, I moved into the house at the end of the street. It was old, the floorboards creaked, the boiler rattled, and the windows leaked. It had a large front porch with pillars in pairs, a big back garden, and a man on the stairs. 5-year-old me was no coward indeed. I put garter snakes in my pockets and played with spiders. I was weird, but I wasn't afraid. So why was it when darkness fell I couldn't look down my own stairwell? What was it that lurked in the dark that struck such fear into my poor little heart? Like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, I would slam my door, pretend he wasn't there anymore. But like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, after a while the problem festered. When I was 12, I pestered my parents to let me stay in the big old house alone. No more babysitters, I would gripe, and I would groan. And if your reaction to this is, what a goddamn stupid idiot, haven't you ever seen a horror movie in your entire life? This is where everybody dies. Okay, chill the fuck out, I was 12. One fateful night, my parents said yes, and armed with a fully charged phone, they left. I didn't run amok like they thought I might. I chose a book and settled down for the night. I can still see that living room inside of my mind, a couch and a chair with the stairs behind. There I sat, reading my book, when I felt a dark, penetrating look. Not just any unnerving stare, this was a violent, threatening glare. My ribcage collapsed, my guts turned to lead, utter terror rushed through my head. Someone was there, someone I couldn't see. Someone was on the stairs, watching me. I only remember that I ran out the door because I couldn't stay in that house a second more. In the cold light of day, it all seemed absurd, a person neither seen nor heard. What could such a thing be, anyway? An overactive imagination, my father would say, shaking his head in utmost dismay. My mom made a sound that went something like, So what is a girl to do when no one else is scared too? Well, she brushed it aside. She went on with her life, keeping her bedroom door tightly shut every night. This went on for a couple of years, my fears jumping from ghosts to boys, to high school cliques, then prom queen pics. I got 3rd place, by the way. Until one time I was cast in a play. This was a really big deal, by the way. And as a side note, my high school took drama maybe a little bit too seriously. A director once threw a chair at us for talking during a rehearsal. And that actually happened. And I understand that might be harder to believe than ghosts, if we're being honest. But I saw a lot of crazy shit, and I was still losing it over a shadowy staircase. So just bear that in mind, okay? This play meant I had to dance, and I would practice any chance I got. I even had to rehearse at home. And if you had to take a single guess as to which part of my house was best, I bet most of you would say, Jesus Christ, Sarah, if you danced in that living room, I will build a time machine just to go back and punch you in the face. To which I say, yes, please do that, because all of this was actually quite stupid in hindsight. There was a big piece of floor by the foot of the stairs, perfectly smooth, not a single bump there, the perfect place to pretend was a stage. I went through each step as the music would play, Tombe, pas de bourrée, glissant grand jeté. If any of you ever ask me to demonstrate that in real life, I will pretend all of this never happened. There's something that happens when you get a dance right. It's like your soul in a rush takes flight. Euphoria, catharsis, you truly let go. But in such a state, your defenses are low. I felt 3 beats in the depths of my chest. A heavy knocking meant to suggest something was coming. A chill ran down my spine. No, no, I said to myself. Everything is fine. There's a move in ballet called the pirouette, a turn on one leg that to truly get, you must whip your head around, keep your eye on one spot. A harmless move, or so I once thought. As I spun around and around, I kept my eyes fixed, but my heart started to pound. And on the very last turn, I saw it. I saw him, a tall man's shadow on the very last spin. A head, shoulders, arms at least. But when I snapped my head back, it had ceased to be there. I froze, chest ripped apart from fear and my tachycardic heart. Invisible ghosts are one thing, but now I'd actually seen something. I contorted my body trying to recreate what I saw. Perhaps it was my own shadow painted upon the wall. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It took all my grit to run up the stairs in a sprint. I slammed the door closed before losing my shit. The following day, I weighed my options. My dad, whose birthday is actually today, so yeah, happy birthday, Dad. I knew exactly what he would say. I couldn't tell him, of that I was sure. What about Mom? Could I trust her? When I explained, she did seem to hear, but was still convinced that all of my fear was baseless. The man didn't want them, that much was clear, or else they'd be feeling that very same fear. Why would such a thing fixate on me? I wasn't special, and who could this thing be? I went on a search with my best friend, looking for records, alas to no end. Nothing strange had happened in the house to date, which revealed our far more disturbing fate. The ghost didn't want the house, or to be free. The man on the stairs simply wanted me. But life stands still for no one, not even a ghost, and my life was about to take a stranger turn than most. I went on a journey started by me to seek out and meet my biological family. It came to a head when I was 17. It was finally time to achieve that dream. I flew to Texas with my adoptive parents in tow. I was so excited to finally know my birth mother. The first meeting was terrifying and wonderful. We began to heal that rift. In the second meeting, she pulled me aside and asked, "Do you have the gift? The gift of observation to see what others can't." Honestly, guys, I went off in a rant. "Oh, thank God, you see them too? What do you do when they frighten you?" She said, "I sleep with my light on. I close my door. Sometimes I bang pots together, stamp on the floor. But if I can, I try to assist, help until they finally desist. But this is my first ghost. I don't know what to do." To which she said, "Sarah, this is ghost number 2. "The following story is true, I swear," she said to me with a penetrating stare. "When I was pregnant with you, I was totally broke. I couldn't stand my family. It was like they would choke the life out of me. I got a low-paying job to make ends meet. I moved into a little old house at the end of the street. The house was dark, gloomy, but what did I care? I was alone expecting, and housing was rare. I stayed there for a time without any trouble, but under the surface, chaos started to bubble. It was late one night, I lay in my bed, when a blasting sound rang in my head. It was my alarm clock blaring out 4, but I hadn't set it the night before. I turned it off, bewildered but unafraid, went through the rest of my uneventful day. Late the next night, I lay in my bed, when a blasting sound rang in my head. It was my alarm clock blaring out 4, and I definitely had not set it the night before. I sprang to my feet and unplugged it from the wall. I didn't want another wake-up call. The very next night, I lay in my bed when a blasting sound rang in my head. It was my alarm clock blaring out 4, still unplugged from the night before. I wrapped it in a blanket and tossed it away, and by the end of the very next day I had forgotten all about it. That very night I lay in my bed when a shattering sound rang in my head. What was that? I sat bolt upright. I walked to the hallway, turned on the light. A mirror had fallen out of its frame onto the floor. I checked the time, and of course, it was 4. It dawned on me then, as I examined the glass, that this was not a passing phenomenon. But what was I to do? I had no husband, nowhere else to live to. So you and I stayed in that house as the trouble got worse. It was like the house itself was cursed. There was this awful shag carpet, I remember it well, that had an unmistakable smell. The smell of blood would waft from the floor until I could ignore it no more. My brother, who I actually liked, once found me scrubbing the shag to an inch of its life. On my knees for hours or more, scrubbing and scrubbing the carpeted floor, he wouldn't even go past the front door. He said I couldn't live there anymore. But I had nowhere else, and I stayed until you were safely spirited away. And on that day, the landlord came to my door to say, "Just a warning for you, my dear. The man who used to live in here has just been released from jail, and I'm sure he'll come back to the place where he murdered her." Murdered, I said, my stomach in a knot. What a horrible twist to the plot. Murdered, yes, stabbed with a knife. A young man killed his pregnant wife, and if you care at all for your life, leave now before this man kills twice. So there teenage Sarah stood. If I wanted, I now could choose a side, logic or believing, nature or nurture, delusional or perceiving. This woman was describing to me my experiences, giving them legitimacy. If her story was true, and why would she lie? Perhaps our two stories might be tied together. Who was this man who had killed his unborn child and wife, who in turn haunted where I spent my fetal life? My pregnant mother moved into that space. Then the ghost of a pregnant victim gave chase. It was a warning, not a curse or a threat, a warning to flee and a warning to get the hell out. This time the mother and child survived, then went on to live their own separate lives. What happened to him? I asked in dismay. She said, he killed himself 5 years after that day. This is where it clicked deep down in my brain. The regret of it all drove him insane. How did he do it? I asked with despair. He had hung himself right there on the stairs. Until this day, I have not made my choice. Every time I try, that small little voice will whisper relentlessly in my head, anxiety, carbon monoxide, or the sight, the living dead. But regardless if he's a thought or a ghost, only one fact matters the most. He is with me each and every night. Yes, dear listeners, even here tonight. I think he must see in me his child that was meant to be. It wasn't the house that was haunted, you see. The thing that was haunted had always been me. So there you have it, you're in on my ghost. If not to a spirit, then to a thought, I am host. In the dark stands a man I can't see. In the dark stands a man watching me. Thank you.